So today I'm interviewing my high school band teacher, Jim Foley. So to begin, could you just tell me a little bit about yourself and like what you do?
Okay, I'm actually entering my 20th year. Maple Grove, I should say Bemis Point Central School District, because my duties in the last 6 or 7 years have picked up fifth grade band as well. So I teach fifth grade through 12th grade instrumental music, as well as sixth through eighth grade general music, which encompasses piano class and theory and composition as well. So that's my vocation.
Awesome. Um, so when COVID began happening, there was a big transition to online classes. So could you just talk a little bit about your personal experience with the transition?
Sure. Boy, it seemed to happen overnight. Well, it literally did happen overnight, I guess, really back in March. And I am not I don't consider myself to be very tech savvy. I can work my way around a computer and I can understand how the internet works and a lot of Google's features as far as classroom and stuff like that. But it was a lot thrown at us at in a very short amount of time. And so it was a harrowing experience, but at the same time, gave me, I should say, the opportunity to explore some software and technology things that I had always wanted to try, but never really had the reason or opportunity. And all of a sudden, it was kind of almost all I could do. So I dove into some new software programs that have always existed that I had never tried before and always wanted to. And those software companies made their products free for the remainder of the school year, that enabled me to try some things that I had always wanted to try. And, through using Zoom and the Google Classroom and platforms that come with that, and some software called Smart Music, I was able to actually finish out the year on as good a note as I felt we possibly could in those circumstances.
So, what I've been focusing on so this class basically we're learning how to solve problems and like become entrepreneurs. And so basically we started out with nothing and I had to interview people to figure out like what their problems were. And then I went from there and like dove into a certain problem or whatever. So, last week I interviewed my brother, Ben, and he's an elementary music teacher. And so he was struggling a lot because it's such a hands-on experience and it's very difficult to do that online. And so then I had like multiple problems that I was thinking about, but I really decided to like focus in on this one and like the hands-on experience and how teachers are going about like being able to give students the same experience online as they would have in person. And so this kind of goes into my next question. Do you think that you were able to provide the same experience online as the students would have gotten if they were able to be in person with you?
No, no, I don't. The software that we used enabled the kids to, I could send out an assignment that had an example on it so they could listen to how things were supposed to sound, and they could play it and practice it as many times as they wanted, and then they could record themselves as many times as they wanted, so they would get the best take kind of, and they would send it back to me, and that was what I would use to evaluate. But how we were limited was, okay, they could play still and still get assessment, but they did not have anyone else. They didn't have any peers. There were no ensembles at all, which what was really lacking.
Hmm.
last year at the end of the year, this school year, was suddenly there was no more band. It just everything became solo, you know. So there was a whole other aspect of music that we typically put so much weight on that they were not getting really at all.
Do you feel like you were
It was
able
the
to
same,
give?
and even this year, you know, I'm
Sorry, you keep cutting in and out, so I thought you were
no, it's
done
okay.
talking. Sorry, keep
That's
going.
okay. Sorry. Oh, I was done with what I was saying. Sorry.
Okay. My next question off of that was, do you feel like you were able to give them like the correct amount of feedback based on how you were assessing them and what they were giving you, like through video recordings?
Um, in that capacity, yes, I did feel like they were still getting a good. It was in that sense, it was good. It was way more personalized. It was almost basically one-on-one lessons, which is something that we don't get to do in the school setting.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, yeah, I think they got really good feedback, and I think they got a lot of really good feedback. I just, you know, all of the stuff really that makes music fun is what they were missing. You know, they were missing the interaction. They were missing the all of the big pieces to the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so could you tell me what you think your three biggest problems that you faced during this transition were?
Um, Only three, huh? Okay. Let's see. Um, is that I don't know a lot of technology really well. And when I enter into that realm, there is so much out there. And there is so much out there that does kind of the same thing. You know, there's so many different versions of sort of the same thing. Even Zoom. There's Zoom, now there's Google Hangouts, there's Skype, there's Discord, there's Google is doing Meet now. You know, I mean, there's so many versions. Being involved in different organizations, every single one of them used a different platform, and I was like, I had to download all these different things on my phone that did the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of, my personality is it's kind of the same way. When I was in college as a music student, I knew I had to get for myself examples of great music. So I would go to the CD store, right? Yes, there were CDs back then, right? It wasn't digital. So I'm surrounded by hundreds of CDs of great music, and I could never make a decision because I wanted the best version of the best copy of the best group playing, and I could never make a decision. And
Right.
so now, you know, I'm faced with almost too many options. You know, I don't know what to choose. Anybody saying, well, you know, use this. We did, at least at the school, we had to use Zoom. They didn't have a choice. It was Zoom. So I was like, oh great. So I'll take Zoom and that's what I'll use. But as far as everything else, you know, I had to make decisions on, wow, what in the world do I use? So that was a big, it might seem silly, but that's maybe it's only because of my personality, but that was a big issue for me. Is, oh my gosh, I was almost at a standstill, like cowering in the corner going, there's too many choices,
Right.
you know. So there's that. The other now with this school year is that we're trying to figure out, because we're in a hybrid mode where we have some kids in person and we have some kids at home, and then they switch. So 2 days a week, these kids are in school and everybody else is at home. And then everybody's at home on Wednesday. And then the other 2 days of the week, they switch. These kids that were at home come to school, and the kids that were at school go home. But I have all of the kids all of the time,
Mm.
virtual, and I have to figure out, you know, how to balance that, how to um, get the most bang for our buck, I guess, as far as actual playing time. And I'm struggling right now with the kids at home are kind of playing along with us, but they're on mute. I can't hear them. Otherwise, there's latency issues with Zoom
Exactly.
that you and I are experiencing right now. And I can't really give those kids at home any kind of feedback. I also can't do any kind of classroom management with them. I don't know if they're playing, because I can't see them. I'm looking at the kids in front of me. So it's, I'm depending on the honor system that they're trying their best at home, when in reality, I can only really assess them 2 days a week, hearing them in front of me. And at the same time, now those kids, some classes are only 2 kids. I have a band class with 2 kids in it. It's a flute and a baritone. What
My gosh.
experience are they getting?
Yeah.
Just because of the way things are grouped. That's how it ended up. So that's a big problem, is striking a balance between the virtual and in-person. Um, and I don't know how effective it is until you get down the road and you can look back on it. There's no way to really predict how effective that sort of system is really going to be. So I guess there's two. Um, the third one is probably, gosh, there's so much. Uh, I don't feel like, this is going to sound horrible. I don't feel like anybody knows what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like our leadership knows what's going on. Um, we we're all just kind of tossed into this mess, and it's a sink or swim sort of. And so I guess just the uncertainty
Yeah.
is the probably the biggest issue, is the uncertainty. We don't know. We don't know how things are going to work. We don't have a whole lot of leadership on, and it changes so much. There's no real fleshed out plan, it seems like. But I don't. There's my three, I guess.
No, that's totally understandable, especially because like even at school right now, like there's a lot of uncertainty because like I don't live on campus, so if everyone was sent home, like I wouldn't be sent home. But I like have internships and I have like in-person things that like I need to get done. And so all of this is like happening at the same time, and it's like I guess we're just going to take it day by day and see if today we're okay and next week we might not be. So
Right.
um okay, the next question I have, we've already touched on it quite a bit, I think. Um, I was just asking if you felt comfortable with the technology and if you like felt like you were able to use it properly and knew what you were doing, which I feel like you kind of have already touched on a little bit. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It's there's a bit of a learning curve, but when you're immersed in it so much so quickly, um, everybody I know, teachers, but we just stayed up all the time trying to figure it out and experimenting, and so you get to learn it really quick.
mm-hmm.
So
Okay, so now I'm gonna get more specific. So, a problem that Ben was telling me about that he's really been struggling with, especially for like elementary age students, is that like all the instruments and supplies that he typically has them use, the school owns. And so he's unable to give them, like when they were at least fully online last year, he was unable to, like, he can't lend an instrument to a third grader and take it home and like assume that they're going to treat it properly. So he was really struggling with that. And so I just I guess want to know your perspective on that, and if you were having a hard time with instruments and like how students would be accessing them. But when I'm thinking about it more, I remember like when I was in high school, I had my own clarinet. So I'm assuming a lot of more of the high school and older students have their own instruments. But like you said, you've been teaching younger age groups too, so I'm not sure if they had issues accessing instruments.
Right. Well, the way it works here is that, and it's only works this way because it kind of always has. Uh, Kids, bigger instruments like baritones and trombones and tubas and such, those are the ones that come from the school generally. Just because rental costs for those instruments are prohibitive. They're very high. They're very expensive to even rent, and to purchase one is just, I mean, it's insane. Tubas, for example, my tuba it's an $11,000 tuba, so it's, that's unreasonable for
Right.
purchase of an instrument like that. Whereas, smaller instruments, flutes, clarinets, in the hundreds of dollars range. So for the most part, uh, our kids who have the smaller instruments owned or rented their own, so they had access to that at home. It was like I'm saying, the bigger instruments, or the percussion instruments, that I did lend those to, the youngest we go is fifth grade. So the fifth grade band, I did let them take that stuff home, and they just had to return it. When school was finished, they had to return it to the school. But again, we're a tiny district. I mean, I have 20. I know where they all live. So,
Yeah.
but like we that's not such a huge problem for us. It's unfortunate that there is an inequality there when it comes to, some people own their instruments and some people don't. Well, when it came to going home and staying at home, the fifth graders, band is now outside the school day in fifth grade in Bemis. So it's not even in the schedule anymore.
Oh.
So, you know, during the quarantine stuff last year was their option. I couldn't require it. So it was up to them. So a lot of families who were renting were like, whoa, if they're not meeting, then I'm not paying the rental fee. So they just returned the instruments. And then suddenly I just didn't see those kids anymore. I made opportunities for them to do Zoom lessons or to do smart music stuff, but the vast majority of them just didn't. And I think it was a matter of, um, that they needed at that early stage, and they didn't want to pay those rental fees anymore, so they just returned the stuff.
Sad.
Yeah, and this fifth grade band isn't a thing this year yet. I've been told no, that we can't even start it until we reach a point where it looks like things are going to work out okay, and we're in a groove and in a good system, and then we'll look at fifth grade band. So who knows? It's in limbo.
Yeah. Do you think that they're missing out on like an experience that they would have with the band?
Oh, absolutely. Just in music, actually, all of the specials at the elementary level now are on carts. Like the music room at the elementary school in Bemis is a storage room. They took all of the desks and everything and crammed them into there.
So they
So now
travel to
Mrs.
the
Way,
classrooms.
yep, yeah, now Mrs. Way is on a cart traveling classroom to classroom, and she can't possibly take all of the stuff that she would
Right.
normally have the kids use, the Orff instruments or the ukuleles or any of that kind of stuff. So, uh, all the way around, they're missing out on a lot of things.
Wait, so it changed to them being on the cart like since COVID has began?
Yeah, that's just this school year. Um, so starting this school year, 2020, 2021, the specials are all on carts. So that's music, art, the library, and I don't even know if they're doing the STEM stuff, the computer stuff. I don't know if they can do that or not. I think all the kids have Chromebooks now at the elementary school, so
Hmm.
they'll do the STEM stuff. But yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
Mrs. Way is not enjoying it at all.
I messaged her because I'm gonna see if I can also interview her about this.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I was wondering, do you know who, I know that there are some music stores around there, but I can't remember where they, like what their names are, but could you tell me what they are? Because I'm gonna try contacting them and seeing if I can discuss like this topic with them too, and like who the students would rent their instruments through.
Yeah, sure. I can actually, if you want, I can just send you all that information.
Okay, yeah,
It's in my syllabus, so I could pull it out of the syllabus and email it to you. It has their phone numbers and addresses in it, so
okay, perfect. Thank you so
I
much.
could do that. Yep, sure.
And then I was just wondering, we kind of touched on this, but if you thought that the students had trouble accessing instruments since COVID has began for the ones who like rent it, which like you were saying, I think it's so sad that students like weren't attending music anymore because their parents like didn't want to pay for renting instruments and stuff. So would you say that some of them did have trouble accessing the instruments? And if it was easier to access them, they probably would have stayed in those music classes?
I can speculate that that's probably the case. Yeah, I think, if they had um, even the resources that I have at the high school to hand out, if we had something of that for kids who would have continued to show up to the music things. At the same time, it's fifth grade and they're really into it at the beginning. It's shiny, it's noisy, and then as you get to March, they're like, "This is hard work," some of them. So you have your diehard kids who will keep up with it, and then you have the kids who are like, "Yeah, this is way too much work to. If I don't have to do it, I'm not going to do it." So that could have been part of it too.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that those were all the questions that I have for you. Do you have anything else you'd like to add about this?
No, just that boy, do I hope things get back to a little bit more normal because just the strangeness of having a mask on your face all day and being surrounded by people who have to stay 6 feet or more away from you is it's bizarre. And
Right.
I see that it's going to be difficult to already, I won't say anything specific, who won't enforce any of this stuff either. So you've got your dichotomy of teachers who are taking it very seriously and teachers who just, they don't buy it and they won't enforce it in their classes,
Yeah.
the social distancing or the masks or whatever. And, you know, that makes things difficult too. But what are you going to do? Um, we'll all do our part and hopefully we'll come out on the other side of this and things will get back to somewhat normal again. That would be nice.
Right. Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you. I really appreciate it. I'm going to stop the recording right now.